India changed my life. In 1 month, I doubled my subscribers. My first video of my India series, first video ever, did 3 million views in a week. I hate when people are like, "You're just a YouTuber. Can you even afford to eat?" I'm like, like, I don't want to say bad words, but like, I'm like, dude, I have buddies that make $1 million a year on YouTube. Like, what are you talking about?
You are gonna go like tunnel vision, and if I chase this one thing, go all the way, even if it doesn't work out, it's on me.
Yeah, man. It's hard.
Yeah, it's definitely hard. Yeah.
Like, I'm divorced now, so I'll put it like that. That's how hard it was. I was like, I'm gonna travel around the world and make videos. I need a cameraman. I need an assistant. I need an editor. I need an office. I need money to like make this actually work. The reason I think people should travel more is because it really opens up your mind. You know, when you're home, you're in a bubble. When you leave, you really change perspective. Your mind opens up to so many different things in terms of language, culture, food. And when you come back, you internally have changed. Change travel. Change the way people see travel.
What does that mean exactly? How do you want to change travel?
I meet people all the time that never left this country, and it boggles my mind. Every video I release of a different destination is putting a white American in that country, and that gives people the ability, or at least they can see themselves like, oh, I can do that same thing. I can go there. It looks safe.
You have been a content creator for a long time, and you have been putting your content out online for a long time. But in my opinion, as an observer and also as a fan, I think your content took like a cataclysmic shift after your India trip. Would you agree with that? And if so, how did your whole career and the future of your channel changed after your trip to India?
Yeah, I mean, what happened with India is that I just started reaching more and more people. That's the amazing part about India, is that you have 1.7 billion people who speak English and can consume English content, which is huge. You know, when you think about China, no, I made Chinese videos, didn't get one person, obviously, because there's like a ban on YouTube over there. So you can't really grow, you can't really be seen. But that's the beauty of what India was, especially in that time. I really, I went to India in like the perfect time. India changed my life, right? So took me like 8 years to get to almost 100,000. And then with India, in 1 month, I doubled my subscribers. Double subscribers. My first video of my India series, first video ever, did 3 million views in a week. So it was crazy. It just took off, and it really helped me and supported me to get to where I am today.
Was there any like conscious planning on your end before the trip regarding, okay, this is a new place for me? Obviously, you are a foreigner there, and India have, like, my parents are Indian, so I know how like it is a lot, like for a first timer to go in, not just as a tourist but also as a content creator. So what was like the pre-production thinking in your end of like this content should appeal to Indian people? Like, what were you thinking as like, if you had to like empathize with the audience, what should the audience get from your content?
Yeah, I mean, the reason I do what I do is because I want people to see the world and be able to plan their trips and go through, almost like a POV, perspective with me, where they get to experience it through my eyes, through my taste buds. And that was my main goal. And that's my goal, period, with my content, is for people to learn about the world, because I've gone to places, especially now where I've done 98 countries, and every country I'm looking at now, most people have never heard of. I really just was going out there to see what happened, because especially in the beginning, when you have almost no fan base, you just got to test things, just testing. And for me, that means getting on a plane and flying halfway across the world and praying to God I don't die, because that's usually how it is on every trip now. I thank God every time I get back from a trip, because you never know. But yeah, man, I mean, obviously you're hitting an audience that's there in India, but then you're hitting also those expats or, second and third generation Indians, around the world. And that's where I'll get into it later, but that's where I've seen the shift in my audience, where it is all American now. It's like 70% American, and that's because I've just been growing so much into the expat communities of each country I visit.
Interesting. That's fascinating. Yeah, I want to get into your viewership and the demo split there, but let's just start with you. Let's turn the clock back a little, and let's talk about your history, not just in content but before content. like you were a businessman, an entrepreneur, a self-starter before you were a content creator. Talk to me about your journey up till you shifting towards YouTube. What's the story?
I'm interested in cultures. I'm interested in learning more, mainly because I know that's, my first language is Spanish. My second language is English. Why my English is not the best, and people are like, your English is different. I'm like, yeah, because that's not my first language.
Your English is the
But
Miami. Like I can get the Miami English from you, like pretty straight. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying like you can tell when someone's from Miami. It's that.
oh, it's a different type of slang, right? Same thing like New York, right? But again, my first language was never English, so I didn't do good in English in school. But yeah, so long story very short, my parents went through when I was, I guess, 13 years old, things sort of fell apart at home in terms of finances. My dad and my parents' business just like went up. And we had to move in with my grandmother, and we went through about 2 years, I think, before we had our own place. And then it took my dad a long time to start really making money and being able to like have a life. And in that time, I just knew I didn't want to go through. Well, I've gone through it now as a 37-year-old father. I've gone broke twice in this business, but in that time, 13, I wanted to make money. I wanted to do anything and everything. My dad told me, wash the car, wash the car. But then I just started doing everything myself. I used to go out and grab mangoes from the neighbor's yard, go on the street and sell those mangoes. I got into buying. I would go to BJ's, buy like these huge pixie sticks, $10 for 50, go to school, sell each one for $1, make $40 profit. That's what I used to do I guess my early teens. Then I got to high school. Similar in high school, I was the muffin man. I was always thinking about making money and putting it away, and eventually all the money that I made between 13 and 22, I invested into this business. Along with getting investors, etc. But that's sort of my childhood and how it shaped me and how it got me on the grind. Where every day I wake up, I don't waste time. Of course, I enjoy life, but I don't waste time in terms of like I'm always thinking about how to grow the business. What do we need to do to make the business better? And I'm always trying to provide information. I just don't want to make videos to make videos. And that's sort of like where I'm at in terms of a company. I want to make videos to inspire people to travel. And I love, now when I get hit up like, David, I'm here because of you. And I'm like, that's the reason I went. For that one reason, for that one person's life to change,
You said raise money, and that brings up the next question. So like, first of all, like what was the timeline when you first decided that you wanted to make content, and why did you think that you needed to raise money? And like if you are willing to share, like how much money did you raise, and did you have any cameraman with you? What was the traveling plan, and like how did you lay out the plan, not just to yourself but also to your investors?
I was like, I'm gonna travel around the world and make videos. I need a cameraman, I need an assistant, I need an editor, I need an office, I need money to like make this actually work. Back then there was no iPhone. There, if you see the cameras and stuff we had back then, it was crazy. It was like TV camera. That's literally, I had to hire my friend Carlos. That was the only option for HD, just for HD, and it was still like horrible 720 HD. When you start looking at it now, you're like, whoa, the quality is so different. But yeah, it's how I started putting together a plan. And then I went to my father and asked him, did he know anybody? And then I just started going through friends and family as well. And eventually we did raise the money. Not everything I wanted, but we raised. So I had 100,000 of my own dollars, and then I got another 200,000 that I raised. So it was total 300 that I had in a bank account at one time. And that's when I hit the ground running. I came out with my website in April of 2008, and then I hired Carlos, my cinematographer back then, which is still like my brother today. He has his own production company now. His career is like in a different stratosphere now. Thank God. And this is all part of it, right? The beginning, 22 years old, coming out with this idea, and yeah, that's how I did it. So I raised money, and then I went hard in terms of just going out there and producing.
What was the plan?
Yeah.
So what was the plan with the 300 grand? Like, because like, what was the runway? What was Carlos's plan? What were you guys planning? Like, hey, we have this money. We want to travel for this long, hit this many countries. What was the plan in front of you guys?
The way I would travel is I was like, okay, we're gonna go out, we're gonna travel, we're gonna make videos about destinations. I mean, it was like almost like top 10s. We were going into food, trying to get free hotel, trying to get a million things done, but to make videos about these these places we're going to, and I was footing every bill. That's why the money went so fast. It took me 2 years to run through this money. But the plan was to make videos on YouTube, grow, and start seeing ad dollars. That was the plan. And so I sort of had an estimate how long it would take for 300,000 to go away in the burn rate. And it was like 2 years. I actually ran out a little faster, just because I was paying for everything in terms of like three people's flights, always 2 rooms, the rent-a-car. I mean, it's funny, today I pay it all as well because I don't work with sponsors, but it works now. But it works.
So you said that was 07, 08, and the burn rate was like you guys had 300 grand for like 2 years. And the whole goal for you in your mind was to see some sort of like YouTube AdSense from you guys' travel. Today, what we call the creator economy and people making money from YouTube, sponsors, Patreon, all that stuff, this whole model obviously did not exist. And you were going out on a limb, clearly chasing your passion, obviously with objective, with clear set goals, but the model of YouTube wasn't ready for your ambition. How often did you had to like take a breather and see like, hey, is it working? Is it working? Or were you at a go all the time?
The whole time it wasn't working. So, I mean, all I was doing was, I guess in this stage is building my name and adding more travel to my repertoire. But it works, it worked because today when I see anybody from the past, they're like, you're still traveling. I'm like, yeah, man, I still travel. I mean, that was the goal. The goal was so that I can travel for eternity, and not travel for eternity, but I wanted to make a life of travel and be a name in travel. I looked up to Anthony Bourdain, Andrew Zimmerman, these guys, and I wanted to be in that breath. I wanted to be mentioned amongst one of the greatest travelers of all time. That's what I've always wanted. Like in terms of building this.
So let's talk about like your content and your audience. So once you start putting your content out, the risk of like travel content, like you said Bourdain, like Bourdain content obviously was like a TV content and it showed everywhere and it found different kind of audience just because of the nature of the medium. Whereas YouTube, your content, other travel vloggers content, there is a tendency of the audience picking up, which is like, hey, I want to see what this guy tells about my country. There's an element of that. So there's always a risk of you having a temporary audience. Like let's say you go to Vietnam, you have a Vietnamese audience for a while, and then you go to a different country, that audience doesn't come with you. And that brings different problems like CPM, stuff like that, because you make different kind of money based on where you are making content and who's consuming the content. Talk to me about you finding your content, finding a product market fit once you started putting it out.
Yeah, I think that'll never change in terms of you going to a country and then you growing within that country, and that country sort of disappears after you stop releasing content about them, right? So I don't think that'll ever change. What the way I've adjusted to this is doing countries that are closer to the US. Because I was going hard for like 3 years that I was just going Asia, and I have kids in Miami, so I have to be based here. So I always have to go out of my way to get over there. I grew, but then you start to see this, like even with India, like you see this, like it just crashes the next day. You drop something completely different. So the way I think about it now, I understand this model. I understand this is how it's going to be for everybody. There's only a few unicorns that'll always get the views no matter what. And that's obviously depends on how big you get in terms of subscribers.
You explained it perfectly. Like there is no way to like hedge against that temporary transient audience. That's the nature of the game, right? So talk to me about like how much does it show up in your creator studio backend? Like what is the CPM difference of you having, let's say, hypothetically 100 Indian viewers versus 100, let's say, Canadian viewers? Like how much does it show in your revenue in the YouTube AdSense?
I mean, completely night and day, right? So I can get 1 million views in India, like purely Indian audience, and only make $1,000. But if I do that in the United States, I'm making like 12, 15, even $20,000. It's not about the views anymore. It's about the watch time. So I don't know how much you've seen of my like documentaries, but the reason I've been doing so many of them And because the thing is that I'm at a transition right now in terms of the content I'm creating and how we're doing it. So my future series that we've shot already, we shot like 3 series, they're a little different in how we used to do things, but we found this niche now with the watch time, dropping a 3-4 hour documentary, even if it bombs the first day, it picks up later. And YouTube, I don't know what's been happening. I think it's just this whole world has changed with the TVs. Like TVs everywhere are starting to play these long watch times. So I guess that used to be the model, right? Like 1,000, so for every million views in India, I get $1,000. But in the US it'd be like 12, 13. But I have some CPMs, RPMs even different, right? So RPMs is really what I make. CPMs is what
YouTube they tell you, yeah.
Yeah, what they tell you, and then RPM is what I actually make, which is smaller, way smaller. But the RPMs are way higher now with these super long watch times. Yeah, because I have 4-hour movies that are getting 90-minute play. 90-minute play, it's worth 10 videos. It's crazy.
I mean, yeah, that a lot of there was a lot of new studies coming out saying that YouTube, even though they were trying to compete with TikTok and trying to acquire new vertical audiences, they ended up having a lot of TV audiences because people watch YouTube TV more than they watch, I don't know, let's say cable hypothetically. So, and
Exactly.
you said, those longer form content, which people don't really associate it with quote unquote internet videos, those are the videos which now are giving dividends, not just to the platform, but also to the creators like you. So that was really well put, and that insight is insane. Let's just go back to your inspirations, and you said Bourdain, another guy who popped off, especially in the YouTube genre of kind of travel, kind of lifestyle, is obviously Casey Neistat. And you have previously mentioned how much Casey impacted not just you, but also your content. So when Casey popped off, I don't remember exactly when, 2012 or 2013, that was a different version of YouTube. And a lot of people ended up quote unquote, wanting to copy Casey's content. And there is a risk of copying creators because your value prop is different. So what was your relationship with Casey's content and how much did that affect you?
Casey, what he did for me is he put it very simple in one video. He was like, if I can't shoot it, edit it, and release it myself, I shouldn't be doing, because he didn't want to deal with the whole cameraman, editor, the back and forth, and especially trying to make it, because when you're trying to make it, when you're trying to make money, it's hard. Especially, I'll tell you, I started doing that and I already had a 1-year-old. So I was really against the wall with my entire career. I feel like my back's been always against the wall. Being put almost like Game 7 tonight with the Heat, my back's against the wall. And I had to just, no matter what, pull through, So that was the one thing I learned from Casey. I got the camera and I started learning how to do intros, started learning how to shoot. And I was very fortunate there. The first 2 years of my life, my career, I was behind the cameraman and I was behind an editor. So I had that producer mindset, and then I had to literally just be the director, creator, the host. I had to be it all. And I just did it. And that's 2017. You could see probably my first trip to Bangkok and stuff back then. And then 2018 is when I went to India. And thankfully, I learned a lot about how to do this, how to shoot. And that's, I pride myself on my cinematography. That's what sometimes I'm man, maybe I'm not the best host and I don't use the biggest words, but I just know how to shoot. I know what is needed. You say one thing, you got to get that B-roll of that object. I know that, and I learned all that from watching Casey. I literally watched Casey for a month straight. Just watch as much as possible.
There's a saying, it's called copying like an artist, and you didn't copy Casey obviously, but you learned how he tells a story and stitching a narrative. So that's really important, and that's a really good takeaway. Talk to me about those years a little bit more, because you mentioned that you were not just the host, you were the cinematographer, you were the producer, you were the director, and all those things. And having managed creator myself and having made content previously, I know how stress-inducing that is, not just to make content, but to plan the whole structure around it. And then you add traveling to it. That's a whole aspect of a variable which you cannot control. And talk to me about like those years in specific, not just from you mentally, but also you executing. We all know that creating is hard, but I don't think a lot of people understand that creating while traveling, when you do not know what this new place is, you don't speak the language, it can be insanely difficult. Talk to me about like that time of your life.
So, I mean, I'm very fortunate that I've been traveling almost my entire life. So, you can throw me anywhere in Africa and I'll be fine, at this moment. But yeah, just like, it doesn't matter where I go, I'll be good. I'll start picking up the language, and I'll start conversing. So in those years, 2017, let's say all the way to pandemic, it was just like grind, grind, grind. And I'll throw another factor in here because I love it when people are like, how do you do so much? I'm like, bro, I have kids too. Like, think about that. Like, so I had to like literally let go of like a lot of things in terms of like friendships, just literally have my core group that I'm staying in touch with. And it's right now it's purely, since then it's like my kids and my work, and that's it. Those years,
I want you to keep talking on that, but like a quick tangent on that. Like, when you decided that you were gonna go like tunnel vision on your work and family, and you had to like let go of other things, for example, how much of like a decision making process that was regarding like there are pros and cons right now, and if I chase this one thing, go all the way, even if it doesn't work out, it's on me. So what was that decision making process on your end when you were consciously chasing after YouTube and also trying to maintain like a family life?
yeah, man, it's hard.
Yeah, it's definitely
I mean,
hard. Yeah.
Like, I'm divorced now, so I'll put it like that. That's how hard it was, especially for my ex-wife, which me and her are like we're like best friends. Like, especially now we're way better place. I've been divorced already for a year, so we're in a way better place. But I literally had to go tunnel vision to make this happen. Just let go of everybody, let go of everything. How hard it was, super hard to decide to this weekend, instead of going out with friends on the boat with the kids, to me like, no, I'm on a schedule and I have to get this all done before the trip, because if not, then it won't be done, and then I'm behind, and then I'll get back and be behind. So it's always been a struggle. Now obviously, like, I'm thankfully I'm in a way better place in terms of like everything. But those were really, really hard years. Just going straight tunnel vision, and then going through a lot of ups and downs. Like you said, like the first thing we talked about is like the fickle audience, like go to India, but then I go to, I don't know, Japan, and then the videos don't do well, and it's like, what just happened? I just spent a fortune and this is not working, and it's like, what the heck? But it was really, really difficult time. Those years were really, really hard. Things started getting really, really good right before pandemic. I was growing, probably making the most money I ever made. And then, pandemic hit, and then I had to go on a straight like queue with my kids, and 5 months like stuck. I wasn't stuck 5 months. I was stuck 3 months, because we were fortunate enough that I live in America. So in August, flights opened up again, and I literally was just looking at destinations I haven't been to that are open. That was my mindset. So, but yeah, so I went to Albania, I went to Kosovo, I went to Brazil, I went to Ghana. So I went to a lot of these places where at least I can get into.
Fast forward to COVID years, so like 2020, obviously the world was in a completely different place, and we know that viewership all across the board kind of like spiked hard during that time, because people really had nothing else to do than just be home consuming content, and people like you were responsible for providing that content. Talk to me a little bit about those years during the COVID years when you were like going like, let's say, Albania and making these content. What was like going through your head in terms of like risk management? Because obviously it's COVID and all this stuff, but at the same time you're a professional, you're trying to get your job done. How did you manage the risk versus the rewards during those years?
Yeah, I mean, dude, my entire career is a risk. Everything I do is a risk. Even right now, I'm going to Belgium next, and I'm already looking. I'm like, this is risky, but you know what? Like, I'm going because I want to get it done. During those times, I just knew I had to go. I had to keep traveling, creating content, weighing the risk. So I wasn't too worried about COVID, because I got COVID like within the first month of lockdown, and I was perfect. So I was like, if I was perfect the first time, and the second time I got it, I wasn't perfect, but I survived. But at least I was like, I'm fine. I can get through this. And I made it happen. Once you have kids, man, you have to get it done for them. You have to get it done for them. The house cannot be taken away. The schools, like everything I provide my kids, and I'm very grateful when I wake up, and that's why like I say like thank you God for the health, thank you for this, thank you for that. So when you have kids, your mind says always like it has to get done. Like no sleep doesn't matter, So the risk for me, the risk is like it's always there. My entire business is a risk. I actually now like every dollar I make, I keep reinvesting. Like I'm making more money than ever, but like I don't see a penny. Just building this thing. But yeah, super risky years, risky on destinations. Like, will these destinations work? Are they interesting to me? Because that's always been a thing for me. It's like, how interesting is this country for me? Do I really want to go? Will it work? Like now I know I like Africa. They're the hardest trips, but they usually work. So I don't know. It depends.
Because like there's a curiosity aspect of it. Because like a lot of people have no insight on what's happening in Africa beyond. If it's not Cape Town, they don't really know about it. So, and like these kind of videos give insight into that. Talk to me a little bit more about like your, not just your content structure, but also your business structure. Like you having worked in e-commerce and having managed teams before, what is the current structure of not just your YouTube channel, but your business writ large regarding what are the different streams of monetizations that you have and what is the pie chart of that? Like, for example, like you make this percent of money from AdSense, this much for sponsors, stuff like that.
Yeah, so there's many different aspects to my business now. So you got YouTube, you have Facebook, and then Instagram and TikTok are not really there. I mean, that's just like for people to like see me. I think IG is like my business card. That's all it is now. And then TikTok, there's like no money in it, just more views. So in terms of pie chart, I'd say like YouTube is probably like 70%. And it goes up because I'm having incredible months, especially now with the docs, which I encourage everybody to try, because I have a lot of friends now reaching out. They're like, hey, you're dropping these docs, but why? I'm like, bro, look at the numbers, bro. Like, look at the numbers. But yeah, so pie chart is like that. I'm trying right now. I just released my hot sauce, which I have to, yes. So the hot sauce, this is new, right? So this is, I don't make it. I teamed up with a company called Suyam Foods, which is a Surinamese company in Tampa. They were fans for my series in Suriname. So they contacted me about a year and a half ago, like if they can send me their products because they're a new company. And then they were asking me if I wanted to make my own sauce, and I was like, yeah, but I have no idea what to do. Like, and I guess I'm getting into like future products and stuff. But so like I never want to like I would never go into a lab and say I'm gonna make a sauce. That's not what I'm doing. Like I want to like you create it. I put my name on it. That's what I want. That's the goal, right? To be able to do that with more and more products. But the sauce is amazing, dude. The sauce is pineapple, guava, Kashmiri chili. I went through a lot of testing to get this sauce to perfection. Right now it's brand new. I mean, we literally came out with it 3 months ago. I've sold a few thousand bottles. Nothing like crazy. Like compared to my competition, which sells millions of bottles a month. So the sauce is awesome. We just got on Amazon. Dude, you have to give me your address. I'll send it to you. You'll love it because you're Indian descent, dude. Kashmiri chili.
Okay,
right?
hold on. I love your sauce and I will definitely use it for my friends and stuff. But like a quick confession, even if I'm Indian, I have zero tolerance for spices, and that's why my parents kind of like abandoned me. Like they were like, "You're not my son," because I cannot take any spices at all. but I'm pretty sure people would definitely enjoy the shit out of it. Let's talk about that a little bit. Like what do you mention about the brand reaching out to you and wanting to basically put your face on this and name on this? There's this trend of like white label products which get sold a ton because of the fact that a creator has name recognition. And not just that, fans have this relationship with creators and they want to associate themselves with their products. So instead of me just buying Gatorade, I would buy Prime because hypothetically, let's say I like Logan Paul. So it's the same effect. And I think like this is here to stay. What do you think is the future of like creators stepping into like just day-to-day commerce stuff going ahead?
Yeah, dude. I think it's a must, right? Like there's so much I can depend on views to provide me, an income. Anything could change. I'll give you one example. Last week, so I went to the Amazon jungle and I went with the Wabarni tribe, and they're like literally butt naked the whole time. So I posted a photo, me not naked, they're naked, but I put a blur on their, But guess what? Facebook thought that like too many people reported it, so I was demonetized for a week, and it's been 8 days. I'm still not monetized, and that's huge money I'm losing. So this type of thing happens. So you think you have to start thinking out of the box, like where are the products? What's the future? I guess I don't know how much I should get into where I'm going with my future, but my main thing is that my background is real estate. But I don't see myself buying in America. I see myself buying in Eastern Europe and starting my Airbnb business.
The core of that is basically like you diversifying your revenue sources. And the reason that stems in is because like not just you, like the creator economy writ large, they don't have a control over all these platforms where they are pouring their entire career in. You have no say in how YouTube decides to monetize your content. And that's like a scary precedent, let's say. So, and that's the whole reason why creators are diversifying in like 19 different ways for their content. And I think it's not just like super interesting. I think it's really smart of you to like not just like do like products, but also like get into like real estate and stuff like that. So yeah, you said you don't want to go into it. If you want to like go into a little bit more like regarding why you think real estate in Eastern Europe is more lucrative to you than real estate in the US.
Well, I guess, it's not even that it's more lucrative. It's more where my heart is. So my father's Hungarian. So I have a big background in Eastern Europe. I've traveled every country in Eastern Europe, minus Romania, in terms of like Southern Eastern Europe. And I love it. I love Albania, Kosovo, Bosnia, all these countries. It's affordable. That's the first thing. It's like you can actually buy an apartment in the city center of one of these capitals for like $100,000. Here in Miami, I can't even get for less than $2 million now. Like I can't, and that's me putting down 400,000 cash. Yeah, 400K cash plus getting a mortgage and spending a fortune the rest of my life. So, I of course I see myself buying here. It's sort of like a tug of war because I'm saving to buy this. Plus I'm adding more salaries like staff in my company, and then I'm building on the side to buy here in Miami, just literally so I can have a place for my kids. But yeah, so the reason I'm going to Eastern Europe is it's affordable. Plus I see a big bright future in Eastern Europe. I think no one's still not like, people still haven't dove in deep in there, especially from the US. I feel like, yes, of course, the British are the ones going, and anybody with money in Italy or Spain or France and Germany, they're going into these countries and really seeing how far their dollar goes. Plus, what can they do there, dude? They could do everything. You could be in a city center, you walk outside, everything's there. You have wine, you have food, you have history, you have culture. I'm single now, so the women aspect I'm like blown away. But yeah, so I see Eastern Europe as like my future. And then like in terms of like why real estate, well, there's two things with it. Well, depending on the country, like you own it flat out, you own it. It's under my company's name. Then I literally just give it the Airbnb, like I find a super host, give it to them, they run it, they take a percentage. And then what I do is that I put my name, my brand, I do the apartment how I want it to be done. There's a lot of aspects to what I mean by that, but I've been to so many Airbnbs, like I can send you a screenshot. I've been to like probably 100. And I've seen what people do wrong and what people do right. Like little things, like if somebody books 10 nights, man, when they get in, there should be a gift, some type of gift, like little things. Water. Why isn't there enough water in that fridge? Why, like certain things, just as a host, like I have a list of things like that I want people to know. And then there's this other thing called Airbnb experiences. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, so not just buy the place and make a video about me buying and showing why I'm buying and all that stuff. Well, showing them my experiences and literally listing those experiences on Airbnb. And that's where the bigger money is. So because the Airbnb, like I spend $100,000, I'm making $40 a night. I don't make my money back for 7 years. Literally, I don't make my money back for 7 years. But the money is in the experiences where it's like, it's not just the person staying at that apartment, but the people who are just booking experiences that are coming to the city. And some of these cities in Eastern Europe literally have zero experiences like to book, right? So there's a few different moving parts here, but eventually I will have somebody that runs this part of my business where I just go and I purchase the place. I decide on what I think should be the experiences, but all this tails back into YouTube and just my presence there, like now it's not just like, cause I hate when people are like, you're just a YouTuber. Like, can you even afford to eat? I'm like, like, I don't want to say bad words, but like, I'm like, dude, I have buddies that make $1 million a year on YouTube. Like, what are you talking about? But yeah, so it becomes more like I want to elevate who I am, but the brand, but I want people to be able to go to these destinations and especially because of me, they'll feel more comfortable going. Like people go where I eat, people will go where I own an apartment, and I do see it with some of the countries in the Caribbean that I've been to. But you're talking about bigger money. It's not $100K cash. It's like $500,000 cash. And I can't get a mortgage in most of these countries unless I already own. It's the same thing in the EU. I don't own in the EU, and I have no business in the EU. So until I own, Kosovo's not even in the EU, but like if I own and if I buy in Italy, then my next apartment in France or Germany, wherever I really want to buy, that can be a mortgage once I have an income coming through.
Talk to me about like how much of this are you like involved day to day? And the reason I ask is like this is definitely complicated, not just for one person, especially because like you're a creator and that is a full-time job. So talk to me about like what is your day to day vis-a-vis your actual content creation, and what does your team look like in numbers? So right now you have over 1 million subscribers, and what does your team look like regarding your content and business?
Position-wise, so I have my assistant, which is also the head of copyright. He's Brandon. He's in Chicago. Then I have my producer Nate, who's in-house. He's here in Miami. He's not here today because Memorial, but yeah, so he's my number 2. Then number 3 is my editor Raul. He's in India. He edits all. He's basically like, I consider him more of a junior editor because he just does the rough of all my videos. Then I have Sabrina, which is the head of Facebook, my Facebook content completely. She just runs the whole thing. Then me. What am I missing here? I'm missing sorry, Luna, my thumbnail person. So she like does my thumbnails on all my motion graphics. So this is it right here. So and my intern, he's gone for the summer. So it's really like 6 of us that are all day full time. And the way it works in terms of like my day to day, man, it's very complicated. But I have a list here. So I have Belize 2, Saudi Arabia, Hawaii. That's all the series I still have to edit. Over here we have the documentaries. Like I literally have whiteboards here, right? So documentaries. I have my timetable of the next few months of where I'm going. So like the next 2 weeks before I go to Belgium, I'm planning Belgium, like literally planning it all in terms of my Airbnb, my rent-a-car, and then what am I filming? What's the story in each city that I'm visiting? Who's taking me around? So I'm literally in a planning phase. At the same time, I'm going through all the rough edits. So whenever Raul finishes, like right now he's editing Amazon. He's editing 9 videos for the Amazon. We wanted him to just edit everything, send it over. And then once he sends it over, then we go through it. So like literally I go through, I edit, I clean, I do as much as I can in terms of cleaning the content, making it tighter, better. And then I export it in the biggest form possible. I give it to Nate. Nate goes through it. He adds music. He adds sound effects. He adds just like, basically he's just doing sound design. And so that's sort of that. And then once he finishes, then he gives it back to me. Then I'll go through it one more time. I'll send it to Brandon, my assistant. Brandon watches it, finds out all the text, like all the dishes, anywhere where we had to have text. He sent it to me, motion graphic, anything extra we need, and then he'll send me that plus the description, and then I get that. I finalize that video, export it, upload it, schedule. So that's one video, right? So it's always like a big moving pieces. Right now, we're actually in the hiring phase. We're looking for a senior editor here in Miami. Very, very tough. very tough, very competitive, very expensive. But we already see that that's the clog in the business. Instead of me being here at all, like in terms of that, I need to be learning a little bit of Flemish. You know, like what am I going to be speaking over there? No, I'm serious, because I'm adding a little bit of more of a language aspect to my videos, because after this Amazon trip, I literally speaking half the time in Spanish, and I feel like people like it. People want to see the dynamic, especially like I'm going to Indonesia as well, and I'm learning with my guide in Indonesia already. He sends me a little bit every day. I'm learning just the basics of
Conversational,
how to converse.
yeah. I think like this is one thing which creators are realizing so much now, especially US based creators. Like since we live in such a bubble, people are finally realizing, oh my God, there are people outside the States. So let's just start different channels with translated videos, which is basically Mr. Beast's thing. Like he has a Brazil channel, he has a Spanish channel of like to make sure that people who don't know English can consume their content. But what you said right there is super interesting about you wanting to hire a senior editor, and why exactly? Because like you want to be freed up with doing stuff which actually it's like a business approach. Like you want to do stuff which scales the whole business while the day-to-day stuff is being taken care of by other people. So give me like your insight on how you screen an editor, especially because I want to make the distinction of like editors who want to work for YouTubers. What are you looking for? What are you looking for an editor who wants to work with a YouTuber?
Yeah, an editor that wants to work with a YouTuber. So the way I did it, and this is how I've hired people in production in the past, is go to Production Hub, which is basically the Upwork for people in the industry in film, right? So we put a listing what we're looking for, and we're really looking for people who consume YouTube, who watch. You know, that's one thing I didn't do in the past. Now I consume the shit out of my competition, and anybody I think is great, I consume, because I want to see why. My producer and I, all we do is live, breathe YouTube. He's actually a YouTuber himself. He's an ASMR artist, but he saw that he couldn't like really like he didn't want to just all day have to grind to make a living. So he rather work with me and build this, and he's still building his thing on the side. But you know, working with YouTubers, and I'm always looking for like as in terms of a cameraman, I'm looking for somebody who hasn't made it, who wants to like learn, you know, like wants to just be obsessed with it like us. And I think the only way we really make it on YouTube is to really consume.
I mean, that's a really good point you said, like, especially like I see the distinction really vividly because I went to journalism school. I work in the mainstream space. So, and I'm around like production people who work in the TV industry a lot. And they like, and I know for a fact that a lot of them like do not consume YouTube. And if I had, because I handle editors for YouTubers, I see how different and unique the skill sets are. Like, especially if you're editing for TV, you kind of think and assume that you already have the retention of the audience, right? Whereas when you're editing for a YouTuber, you can't take anything for granted. Every second matters. Like the first 10 seconds, if you're wasting that, you are kind of like done at that point. And like you said, Logan's editor, I think his name is like Hayden Hiller Smith. Yeah. And those kind of people put a really good spotlight on what it means to exactly edit for not just like YouTubers, but influencers, and like how important like little things like those dings and like text and like small zoom ins and stuff like that matter for editor. But the point being, the main advice which you said, and I would reiterate, is like if you're an editor or a production person who wants to work for a YouTuber or aspires to do anything in the creator space, the first step is always consume a lot of YouTube, right? So like know exactly like what the landscape is.
Yeah, don't do anything else. I mean, like I'll tell you, I don't watch any TV. Like I watch Marvel and Star Wars shows. That's all I watch, and they come out like at least quarterly. But you know, I don't consume anything except YouTube. And you know, this is another thing I was gonna say, which I didn't say earlier. Consume the heck out of your competition, because they're doing something. They're better than you for a reason. Now, what are they doing? What are they doing? Is it just like, is it their personality? Is it their look? Is it the way they edit? Is it the way their team is built? And I look at my competition, and I don't consider him competition. I only see him as competition because we're in the same genre or the same niche. But for me, he's like a buddy. You know, we talk all the time. But like he has a team now, like he's a huge team. He's a team of like 25 people, and there's no other way to do this in terms of like just for me, what I want to do, like long story, like shortened in terms of like my business. I want to get to a point now, especially with the editor, and then get a cameraman, and then maybe a second cameraman, and then me just focus like, what are the stories I want to do? Where am I going? I want to just be better at everything. Like, what takes away my time is 10 hours of editing a day. Literally 10 hours of editing a day. That's what takes my time. And it's taking my time for a decade. The next decade, it's not going to take my time. I'm going to focus on being better as a person, being able to speak better, converse better. You know, I got a lot of great qualities, and I think my biggest strength is that I can communicate with anybody, anywhere, anytime, and we can have a conversation. I think that's my strength. So I want to separate it all so that I don't have to be editing. Yeah, I always look over and re-watch it, you know, but I want to get to a point now, especially with a senior editor, where he's just like, David, watch it. Let me know if anything changed or needed. That's what I want. Right now with my editor in India, he just sends me rough, like it's bare bones, bro. Like it's put together, so I don't have to spend 4 hours putting it together. You know what I mean?
That's such a long term and like scaled up view, because like a lot of time YouTubers have a problem like letting go of their baby, so to speak, and it's like, oh, why will I not edit my video? Because like I want to be in charge of the story. But again, it's a matter of like scaling, not getting burned out, and all this stuff. Because if you're like, editing is not an easy job. It's like one of the hardest jobs someone can ever do. And like, and especially when you're making like 41 hour minute docs like you are, like it is impossible for someone to not edit and also like think about planning your next trip and stuff like that. I want to ask you this one question about the landscape of like just travel content in general. If I'm an audience who wants to know what it is to, I don't know, like travel to like, I don't know, like let's say like Israel or India or whatever, the first thing, I don't know, I would do myself is go up on YouTube and find travel bloggers like yourself who have gone to these places. The point being, the trend of people and the mainstream audience writ large wanting to watch travel content on TV on channels like Travel and Living and TLC and I don't know, Discovery has been like going down and declining slowly, and the trend of them watching people like you has gone up. And my reasoning behind that is like there's a aspect of like relationship building. Like they know who you are, they want to see the experience of that place through your eyes. Do you think that is correct? Why do you think people are more like transitioning to like YouTube content when it comes to travel?
Well, I think, you know, first, I'm very fortunate I have 2 young kids, so I already see why. You know, they don't watch TV. They don't know what TV is. They literally are like, commercials? What are you talking about? Like, they're like Disney Plus, YouTube. What else do we got? We got Hulu. So they got the apps, and that's it. That's all they got. And then when they're on their iPad, they're watching YouTube as well. So like they are just consuming YouTube. And I see that, I think the past 10 years, you know, any of these kids that were 7, now they're 17, you know, what are they consuming? Who are they watching? And I start to see in my own, like, obviously I have more like, let's say 25 to 45 year olds. Those are like my real demos. Just because of who I am. 37-year-old father is a little different compared to a 22-year-old, you know, college student, you know what I mean? So, but I think that's the reasoning. And also YouTube has become, like, people think of it just as TV now, like literally as TV. Like I go to how many restaurants can you tell me are, I don't know where you live in New York, but how many restaurants have you been to where there's a TV and something's playing that's YouTube? Because literally that is what my documentaries are made for. And that's what people hit me up like all the time on stories, like on IG stories, like tagging me. They're like, I just saw you in a restaurant in Sao Paulo. And it's something, a documentary of Barbados, which is like completely different, but you know what I mean? It's resonating together. And I just think people are just consuming more. Plus the TV aspect in restaurants and anywhere, they're just letting it roll, which is great.
Which is great for watch time as well. Where do you see this space headed right now? When I say space, I mean like YouTube specifically, because YouTube just had a new CEO and they are focused so much on shorts. There is a conscious focus on getting streamers on the platform and stuff like that. You, as a YouTuber who have spent almost over a decade on the platform now, where do you see YouTube as a space headed, and where do you want to see it headed?
Well, I mean, of course we see that shorts element, but I'll tell you, the shorts thing, I can't stand it because No, because you saw, especially in those months, those first few months, like it came out in February, but the build up towards it, you saw just like viewership just drop because people just started going to the shorts aspect over the long form. It's great in terms of like right now I have a video that's doing 7,000 views an hour, a short, right? But if you look at the money there, I make pennies. Like, dude, it has. I think this video has. I'll click on it just really fast. Statistics. I think it has like 20 something million. This video, no, 14.6 million. It's only made me $138. Now, so I think YouTube has seen, because obviously they've seen less ads, and a lot of people have talked about this in the past few months. Just ad revenue has been down, but that's why the long form actually does work better. And I think people are going towards long form, especially when they get home. They put on their TV, they'll put something on, let it play in the background. So I see that continuing. I don't see that going down. I see people learning more on YouTube, like myself. I go to YouTube mainly to learn. That's why I go there. Obviously, there's some entertainment, sports and stuff. Exactly, but the rest of it is me learning. I watch people to learn. I watch certain programs to learn more about the universe or whatever I'm learning. But so I think long form, I think it's still the main thing, and I think longer than ever, because before people were averaging like 15-minute videos. Now like a 4-hour movie, and I have how many? Like my top 10 right now are documentaries, and they're all like 3 hours long. And you can't, like, it's like, why, but I see like that short form being very, very just like almost like for kids in the beginning, because I don't consume it. I don't get on there and do that.
So it's a good top of the funnel. It's like good top of the funnel and getting people on your page. But like when it comes to like actually watching stuff and like building a relationship with someone, I think it's not a thing. I would say like the last question to you is, like big picture stuff. You said you were divorced once, and obviously you wanted to focus consciously on what you have built and built successfully, and add traveling the whole world to that. It's a lot. So when it comes, people talk a lot about like work-life balance, burnout, mental health, and all that stuff. And then there's another aspect of like wanting to build something badly, which is a desire, I think, which you had back in the day, and you executed it like all the way out. The question I would extract from that train of thought is basically, if you had to go back in time and wanted to like give advice to yourself in hindsight, like 10 years ago when you were hopping on the plane for your first trip to make content out of it, what would you say?
Oh, it's to get ready for a long road.
I know, right?
It's funny because you asked this question, and the first part about it, the burnout, because now I feel burnt out all the time. I won't lie. Every time I have to get back on this editing board, which I was doing right before our call, I'm tired. But I'm very fortunate that I'm starting to see fruits from my labor. And I see it more and more every day. But yeah, I think when you think, okay, I think first off, you have to want to build something, right? Because if you don't have that, where's the motivation? It's not just to support my kids. That's not the goal right now. The goal is obviously give them a great life, no matter what. That's what my number one is. Number two is to change travel for me, change the way people see travel.
What does that mean exactly? How do you want to change travel?
Dude, I just want to change in many people's eyes as possible in terms of what destinations are about, make it easier. I meet people all the time that never left this country, and it boggles my mind, and I think that they need a little bit of, like, every video I release of a different destination is putting a white American in that country, and that gives people the ability, or at least they can see themselves like, oh, I can do that same thing. I can go there. It looks safe. Like these type of things come into their mind for sure. So that's what I always think with change travel, and that's why, like, when I say change travel, that's why I want to get into like real estate and start pushing these destinations, like really push them. Like, yeah, I make video, great, but it's different when I have like my foot there. I own property there. I recommend a destination. There's a reason why I recommend it. But I think especially like if you're trying in the beginning, you really have to have a goal. Like, and one of my main goals, and I've had this goal for a long time, is I want to go to space. Obviously the moon is a different thing, but I want to go to space, and I did tattoo the moon on my chest because it's like my here, I'll show you. That's like it's one of my ultimate goals. Yeah. So I want to go to space, and I only see one way to get there, and that's me just working my ass off to a day that I can attain that possibility. Either it's me making a lot of money along the way to be able to afford it, or that the prices come down and it just becomes way more like going to Europe now. Just get on a flight and there 6 hours.
Sorry, I pulled you away from your answer. So you were talking about burnout and your personal life.
Yeah, so burnout. So of course this is huge. I burned out multiple times. In terms of burning out, meaning that like I get to a point where I'm just like, I need a day off, and I'm taking a day off, and I just gotta take a day off. What I've come to realize is like I can work. I can work forever. Like I'm a dog when it comes to like especially because I love what I do. And even the videos that now I'm at a point where I'm like, God, I can't stand going to the editing board, but I love watching. Like I love seeing that final product go online and seeing the reaction. I love that. But I think there has to be a balance. And like in terms of my own life, how I do it now is like, dude, I wake up at 5:30, so I try to go to sleep at 10 p.m. latest. Like, but again, I'm cutting out like a lot of things. I'm cutting out any after night, after
hours activities. Yeah.
After hour activities, I'm cutting all that. So I wake up 5. I go to the gym 5:30 in the morning. At 45, from there I cross the street. Literally, I go to the sauna, and then from there, take them, they get them dressed, take them to school. 8 a.m. I'm here at the office, and I'm going through my list. I'm a big person that focuses on to-do list.
I love lists too. Yeah.
Dude, huge. Yeah, that's why I put the moon there, because I believe like you have to see it there, and that's why I tattooed travel on myself, because I believe like if I see and I keep seeing it, I'll get it done. That's why like some of these things have been there like 4 months. I'm like, well, at least I'm finishing that next week. You know what I mean? But I think you have to, I think mix in the mental, because this can break you. I'll tell you, like most of the people that started travel vlogging back then do not exist. The only person that could tell you that exists today that was still doing it back then. I mean, there's still people who exist, but they're not really, they're not doing huge things in terms of viewership numbers and expanding. So Mark Wiens, my boy Mark Wiens, he's almost at 10 million. He has restaurant now. He has products. He keeps traveling. He keeps building. I mean, of course, he's making money. He has a team now. But to get to that point, you have to really work. And I've watched that guy work. That guy's like me, man. He's just a machine. Like you don't turn off. You just like, when we're on a trip, like those next 10 days, 12 days, it's from the start to the finish. The only time we get off is the little bit of, here and there in between where we're going from point A to point B. And even then I do like a live. I'll do like a live just to like, interact with audience. But yeah, I think the main thing is like, have a goal and know it will take a long time. And like now when I look at YouTube, I always tell people, you have to go hard 3 years. Hard 3 years. If you don't go hard 3 years, yeah, man, like to make a video that goes viral, yeah, it's great. You know how many videos have gone viral for me? A lot. How many haven't? A lot. But at the end of the day, like one viral video doesn't make a career ever. But of course, like that one viral video did start my career in India, like it started it. But I think you have to put out, as much as possible in the beginning, the highest quality, as many as possible. And then after that, you can scale back. Like I'm at a point now where like, yeah, we're releasing almost every day a documentary until we run out. I have like 60 and I'm done. And then after that, yeah. But I'm trying to get to a point now where I can just release like twice a week, 2 great videos. And that's it. Like I don't want to overboard. And obviously there's other things like starting a second channel, a third channel, a fourth channel, and doing other things. But that's with time and with fan base,
So like the point you said there basically is like, just like don't depend on, like virality, and like it's all about like you being consistent.
Yeah, because I don't believe like 1 million view video will do anything if you don't keep putting out, So like that video in India did well, and then the ones after that, some of them did like 30,000 views, and that was a lot back then. Now sometimes I don't break like 10,000 views in 24 hours, but my audience is 100% American now, which obviously we didn't really get into, but the RPM is way higher, so it doesn't really matter. Like I don't, like at the end of the day, like I put it out. If it does well, it does well. If it doesn't, didn't do well. You know, even like some of the content now, YouTube's become very, very strict. So we're getting like limited ads on anything like that has to do with an animal on screen that's not dead. You know, it's freaking crazy. But I think the main thing is you start off first 100 videos, just to put it in a nutshell as a YouTuber, first 100 videos, that's where you start to see what works. And then after that, you start to do more of those things. But you have to give yourself at least 3 years. I'd say like 1,000 videos, like 1,000 days, you know? So Davidsbeenhere hot sauce, brand new product. It's delicious. So it's sweet, it's spicy. Once you try it, you won't stop, and it's heat.
Where can people buy it?
You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy my website, Amazon.com. Easier.